I'm not very good at making tutorials, but I'm going to attempt to because I want to share my knowledge with the world. Anyway, yeah, what I'm going to be trying to explain are these sounds. That's wrong. This. Are these sounds. That one didn't play. There. Alright, so they're kind of like these build-up-y things you would probably expect to hear in like a movie score or something. I don't know. That's what I thought of when I was trying to make it. I was inspired by some cinematic pack thing, and I was like, you know what? I can do that. I don't need to pay money for that. So, that leads me to this. The basic concept of it is just really basic FM synthesis and operator. So if you don't have a FM synth, you're not going to be able to do this, at least not in the way that I'm going to explain it. If you don't have operator, you're going to need an FM synth that has the capability of being able to have separate envelopes for each oscillator that you have. Like, if you can see the envelopes on these 4 oscillators, and they're all set to different times. This one's 10 to 2.5 seconds, this one's to 5 seconds, and this one's 10 seconds. You can set it to whatever you like, depending on the tempo, and that just felt right to me. Probably because I started this project in 120, and that happens to be divisible by 60. So, yeah. I end up having really precise... Like, I didn't even, think of that, but that just goes to show that these things are actually a lot based on feeling, because I didn't actually write in these frequencies by themselves. I just kind of moved the knob up and down to find which frequency sounded right. And if you're going to be doing this, I imagine that you would want to start on something that has musical qualities before you start making these, because the frequencies that are going to be played are going to start matching up with your music. It's like kicks. When you're picking kicks to go with something that's already been made, you usually end up picking kicks that are already in tune because they just simply sound better. This is the same sort of concept because, yeah, the human brain just likes certain frequencies with certain frequencies, so I'm not going to deal with that. Anyway, I'm going to go through just building a basic patch of one of these. So let's go just make a MIDI track. Let's solo it and make sure I got that record on. Gotta get it going here. Let's pull up an operator on the default patch. And let's see. Okay, the best thing is to start with at least a wave that has some sort of harmonics. I started with a triangle because it has a little bit of harmonics that can't be mangled and destroyed. It's actually my favorite waveform to mangle. And for the rest of them, you're probably going to expect to just be using sines. For this, I usually just use the basic setup when all of the oscillators go in a ladder down towards A. So it goes D to C to B to A. If you have FM8 or something like that, yeah, that's just, route one to the other in a ladder down. And these are levels, so that's the volume to go into. Most people that understand FM synthesis will be pretty familiar with this, but operators are a bit strange, depending on whether you're used to using a matrix FM synth. I don't like to use those, but I guess that's just me. Anyway, so you're going to want to set this to an attack of above at least 1 second. So you'll have a nice little fade in. So and then you're going to turn it to a fixed. Want to find like a frequency that you like. I like 58. If you don't have a system that could play below 80 hertz, you're probably not going to be able to hear this. Oh, well, you actually, never mind. It's a triangle wave. I'm being stupid. You're probably going to hear it, but it's going to be really thin and not very powerful. Alright, so now what you're going to start doing is you're going to dial this in. Not too much, not too little. Something like that. And then you turn it to fixed too, so. This one's going to be of a higher frequency, okay? And you kind of want to find the end sound that you want by the end of it. You can also start the envelope just so you get a better idea of how it's going to end up. So let's just set that to 5 seconds, just because that was working before. Set this to like 283. I have a good feeling about that frequency. Close enough. Oh man, that sounds sweet. Okay, so you're going to want to set this to like an even higher frequency, probably around like, yeah, that'd probably be fine. And dial that in a little bit, and then turn the attack even higher, because that's going to add because it's a higher frequency, it's going to add a little fizz at the end, and it's going to get like really intense by the end of the envelope. So it's going to be like. And it gets just kind of like that. If you want to get it a little bit more intense, you might want to get some white noise and just dial that in a bit. Most of this is just kind of luck, like finding the right frequencies and wavetables. I ended up just being really lucky about finding these 3 sounds in a row. So just like you can pick different waves, see how that has an effect. That has like it's more of a, sounds like it's a bit chorused, but I like the sign better. As for the kick impact up here, which sounds something like. I'm just going to show that because that's really easy. That's another one where I just turn it to a fixed frequency and I just shut off all the other oscillators and just found a frequency that I really liked listening to, which ended up being 43.2 hertz. And then I put like an envelope with a decay, so it just sounded like if I turn off everything else in the compressor, so it will sounded like. So it just sounds like a normal, like just decaying. Something about 43.2 hertz seems to sound very cinematic. At least to me, and then it just sounded good. And then I put a little distortion. It's barely noticeable, but it does add some to it. And then the reverb is the important part. I just put it in full size. full stereo, and about 50% dry wet. Most of this is just the default settings for reverb in Ableton. So it sounds really big and nice. And then the compressor just to make it sound more sustained. And like big and compressed, because compression makes things better. And then I use this again. It's just the same patch with just more saturation. But there's another thing that I do add that does add a lot. It's this this white noise thing that I layer over it with another decay, about half decay of the kick. It's going to be, yeah, it's pretty much about this half decay. And that's beneficial because if I turn it off, there's less for the saturator to do stuff with, so it just sounds like a damn. I don't really like that sound. It kind of reminds me of hardstyle. It's not a really bad thing, but it's just not a good sound. And that ad just got the extra grit that I wanted to have, and then it just plays well, nice with the snare. That's just kind of how it started getting built up. If anyone has any questions about any other part of the track or anything else in my music, I will happily share how I did it. And if you have any questions about this video, go ahead and ask me. I'm on Boyna Band. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm in space. Good night, everybody.